Welcome to Easy Style with Sammy. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern. Each episode, I invite a friend, family member, colleague, or just someone I've met on this journey called life to come and share their personal style and approach to business, parenting, life, and everything in between. You'll hear motivational and inspirational stories that will help you refine and build your own personal style. Remember, style is easy when it comes from within. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Easy Style with Sammy. My guest today is the wonderful Becky Launder. Becky, thanks for being here.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, and I love to start off by talking about how we kind of know each other. And I love kind of our story because we both met in a mastermind business coaching program, which we're both still in, and just kind of connected right away. We were both kind of in the same phase of our business. We were both starting memberships. Yours is wildly successful. Mine no longer exists, but that's a whole nother story. Okay. But I wasn't in direct sales at the time, and you were starting a direct sales membership. And then I joined direct sales and was like, well, heck yeah, now I'm going to learn all of the things from Becky. So it's such a good reminder of like, you never know the people that enter your life, how they're going to make an impact. You just got to be open and out there.
Absolutely. And I feel like I learned so much from you as I was starting that membership. You were facilitating masterminds and challenging me to increase my pricing and all the things. And then I feel like it's come full circle in some ways that like I'm also sharing tips with you on how to grow your direct sales business. So
I love it.
It's been so fun.
It has. Well, before we kind of jump into some of the questions and what we're going to talk about today, why don't you introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Becky Launder. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Modern Direct Seller. I work with my husband, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about here today. And we're in San Diego, California. We have two kiddos, second and fourth grade. They just keep getting bigger and bigger. On a personal note, I love some iced coffee. I love some office supplies. And I'm pretty much obsessed with getting direct sellers results in their business. So that's a little bit of my background.
I love that. And I'm very jealous that you're in sunny San Diego because we are in the middle of a cold snap here in Minneapolis and it is cold. And I had to turn my space heater off for this interview. It's fine. We'll make it.
I won't share the weather report today then.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So let's talk about kind of your journey and your business growth. So what got you into direct sales in the first place?
Totally by accident, right? I feel like my story is very similar to many other direct sellers that are out there that I was working full-time in marketing strategy. I was working for an amazing leadership training company. I had little kids at home and I stumbled upon a product that I thought was pretty awesome. And being a savvy shopper over here, I quickly calculated the math and was like, if I'm going to spend $250, I might as well just buy that starter kit for $75 and have a permanent discount of 25%, right? So total kidnapper, no intention of building a business, but as a achiever and a go-getter, I saw all the money on the table, right? Like I saw the bonuses, I saw all the extra product that I could get. And I was kind of like, well, maybe I'll just kind of try this so I can scoop up some more free stuff because I like it so much. So that was, I totally got sucked in. That was pretty much the journey, right? So I started, and then before I knew it, I was building a team and earning incentive trips and bonuses. And before long, my income pretty much replaced my corporate income. And I could see it growing exponentially. And I think that's the cool part about direct sales is that, you know, it's not the annual bonus of 4% that you're getting every year. You are seeing how month over month over month, I was seeing all of this big growth. And so at that point, took a leap of faith and stepped away from my full-time job. I actually went part-time first and then completely stepped away from my full-time job to build my direct sales business and build my team. And then eventually ended up switching to a new company and rebuilding and having a lot of fun there before where I am now, which is really just focused on training and strategy and supporting the industry as a whole.
Yeah. And so as you're growing your business and you're, because I think I mean, like, let's be real. Like, I think the phrase is direct sales is simple, but it's not easy, right? The concept of
Yeah.
growing a business is simple, but it takes a lot of hard work to kind of do what you did and do it twice. So how, like, what was the motivator? Like, having kind of that control, I can build the business the way that I want. Like, what was kind of the thing that really drove you in that? Because I think a lot of people are motivated by all the things that you said, but they're still not as successful as what you were able to accomplish.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I feel like I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Like I've always had
Mm-hmm.
a side hustle. I've always had something that I was trying to build on the side. And then you're right, I stepped into direct sales, and especially in the beginning, like I have a decent network. So, I'd throw a party and people would come buy things. And this is back in the day. So for direct sellers that are listening and know what it's like now to run an online party. Back in the day, you literally just copied and pasted and posted images and then shared a shopping link and people would buy. Like it was a brand new concept. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was a sense of simplicity there. But I think really back then, my why and what motivated me and kind of got me excited and really on this path was that I wanted more flexibility. I had little
Yeah.
kids at home, and as much as I loved my corporate job, and my boss actually wasn't even local to me. She was on the East Coast, I was on the West Coast. I already was able to work at home a lot, but I still had work to do during regular business hours and things that I needed to accomplish. And I started getting that taste of freedom, I think, when I went part-time and I would spend
Mm.
mornings with my kids at the park, or we would go to SeaWorld, or we'd go to the zoo, or we'd go do things. And I, at one point, for a tiny little blip, had a vision of being a stay-at-home mom, which let
Yeah.
me just tell you,
That's hard work.
shout out to all the stay-at-home moms out
Yes.
there, because I quickly changed my mind and told my husband, "Oh, just kidding. I don't really want to be home full time. Like I
Mhm.
want to have something that I'm building as well." So I just loved that season of life and seeing how I could adapt my schedule and how I could change things in a way that really worked well for our family. And it was a blast. Like
Yeah.
it was really, really exciting. And everything worked out because I was able to step away from that job and really build up a big business.
Yeah. Okay, so you build this big business, and then now, like, what was the motivation, or like what kind of got you going about, like, maybe I want to coach and teach other people how to do the same thing that I've been able to do?
Yeah. Okay. So I love this question because, again, it sort of happened by accident. And let me tell you, I'm actually very intentional about the things that I do in my life.
Yes.
But in this instance, I was building a team. And as a team leader, anytime anyone asked me a question, basically more than once, I would make a YouTube video or I would write a blog post about it. And honestly, it was for me and to save time for me. I didn't want people
Mm.
asking me the same things over and over again. And we all know that sometimes on the corporate side, the training and the support isn't always there. People go to their upline, they go to their team leader to ask questions. And so I started this blog, this little website, and it was really intended to train my team, especially my new team members, to set them up for success. So if people ask questions, I could just refer them to a video, refer them to a blog post. And before I knew it, that little website was being used not just by my team, but it was being used by others within our company and eventually others outside of our company.
Yeah.
So I knew I was onto something. And in my marketing career, I worked for a training company. So training was always kind of in my blood and something I was super passionate about. And honestly, that's what I loved the most in direct sales was leading a team and
Mm.
seeing somebody step into their business and build confidence
Yeah.
and be able to do something they never thought they were able to do and find success. That and as a new direct seller, I was going to all the places for all the things. I was searching groups, I was Googling, I was looking in back offices. I just felt like everything was all over the place. And there was an opportunity to centralize and provide a hub for direct sellers to get the information that they needed when they need it without spending hours going down a rabbit hole searching for that one thing that they're trying to figure out how to do in their
Yeah.
business. So that's kind of how Modern Direct Seller got started. It was, and we waited a really long time to monetize also. I think that's important to mention. It was all free content. We just had this website, and I just would record videos on the weekends, and I'd put them on the website, and it was super fun and easy breezy. And then I had a couple friends that were online business owners that were like, why aren't you charging money for this? And I was like, I guess maybe I should think about that. So that's kind of where we actually turned things into a real business.
Yeah. Well, and we had Allie Camilletti on the podcast in episode 4, and I know you guys don't know each other, but she said something, because she's also a coach, and she said something to me that was brilliant, because I think even if you're not in direct sales, like everything you're saying can equate to all sorts of industry. But she said something about people going into the coaching business that I had never thought about before, which is, we start our jobs in corporate and whatever it is, we grow, we get into a leadership position, we grow. And then there's those of us that go into coaching that are like, well, I've hit kind of where I think I can hit and not really do anymore, but I want to make bigger impact. And so then we go into coaching. And that was kind of it seems like your projection. My projection was the same way. Like, you go through all working for other people, learn all the things you can. And then it's like, how can I make a bigger impact? I can do that by coaching and supporting people. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And I love your take on, I want to make the direct sales industry something that people understand is good, healthy, legit, and a great way for people to kind of support their families or support themselves in whatever way that they want to.
Absolutely. And I think, that was also like the stigma that comes with direct sales or MLMs, and I think because I had so much success and I saw others have so much success, I know, I wholeheartedly believe that there is an incredible opportunity in this industry for the people that want to be part of it.
Yeah.
And there's also, between me, you, and our podcast listeners, some really bad training out there, right? And there's definitely systems and strategies that are spammy and icky and gross and really don't help the industry out at all. So being on kind of this mission to elevate the industry, to do things in an authentic and in a genuine way, but also still see results is something that I'm just so passionate about, because I've seen the opportunity. I know what it looks like when it's done right. And people just need the tools to be able to do that and see that success that they're looking for.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's why you attract so many of the people that are in your group are like-minded and
they're good people.
They're good people. Yeah,
they really are. It's such good people. I say that all the time. I'm like, our community is amazing, and I give you a lot of training, but we got good people. It's a great community to be a part of. And because you're right, everyone kind of comes at it with the same really genuine perspective. Yeah. And I think that counts for a lot.
Yeah. So you start Modern Direct Seller. At this point, is your husband still working his job?
Yes. So my husband, Jeremy, he is an electrical engineer by trade and spent 15 years working for a defense company. And over time, we had many conversations about, working together and what business could look like if we were both in it together, or if there was something else for him outside of the company that he was with. And he kind of went on his own personal development journey and trying to figure out what that looked like. And come 2020, the world's falling apart around us. And we're all at home and things were kind of crazy. He found out at that point that the product line that he was working at was going to be moved to a different division, and he had some opportunities to move into a different role or even relocate to a new location or kind of go a different direction. And so after a lot of what I like to call wine therapy, we had lots of conversations around, can we swing this? Can we both work together in the business, still feed our children, still be happily married, and really build a business together? And so right when everyone was doing distance learning at home, and I'm saying we had kindergarten, second grade in the background.
So hard.
My nephews were here sometimes. There was a first grader in the mix and a preschooler in the mix, and my brother-in-law was here a lot of the time because they were our COVID pod. Yeah, the kids were on Zoom calls all the time. Jeremy left his corporate engineering job, made that leap. And so it's hard to believe that it's been almost 3 years now that
Wow.
we made that decision, and it's been pretty smooth sailing. So now we work together, and it's we're all here together in the house working on this together.
I'm always impressed with couples that go into business together because I don't think it's easy. So like, how do you manage that? Like, do you have like I'm in charge of this part of the business, you're in charge of like, how do you kind of separate duties or like not, keep like egos, emotions, all of that in check when it comes to the business?
For sure. So, a good friend of mine the other day, we were hanging out, and she looked at me and she's like, "You must really like your husband. Like you guys really like each other." And I was kind of laughing. I'm like, "Well, I mean, yeah, like we do, but we also don't sit and work together all day. We sit near each other all day." But we have totally different sides of the business that we work on, and we know for the most part how to stay in our own lane. So I'm more sales, marketing, content creation, front end of the business. You see my face on everything. And he's definitely more the back end of the business. So he's doing tech and web development and legal and finance and operations. And so for us, it works really well. I spend a lot of my time during the day like this, doing podcasts or training or coaching or in meetings. And he happily puts his AirPods in and focuses on the work that needs to be done to really keep the business going. And then, of course, the tech and the web development piece is kind of his baby. And we've been able to introduce some of those offerings to our students in our programs too, which has been really cool. So we definitely, spend a lot of time together. But at the same time, we're not like in meetings working together on the same things. There's overlap. We have a Sunday evening meeting that we put together. I mean, it's a meeting, but usually it's like a margarita and a review of our calendar for the week and make sure that we're just aligned. Yeah, making sure that what he's working on syncs up with what I'm working on and vice versa. And then we usually have lunch together, and we try to go on a quick walk around our neighborhood together. And then, of course, evenings and weekends hanging out like normal couples do. But business definitely creeps its way into our conversations more often than probably is healthy, but it's always like good stuff. Like, oh, I didn't tell you about this meeting I had, or oh, by the way, I'm working on this, and I'm, so it's for the most part, it works really well for us. I don't think it can work for everyone, but for us, it does. It works really well.
I love my husband, but our approach is so crazy different. But it seems like you have found like a way to use like his engineer analytical brain to like complement your creative marketing brain so that you can really have a flushed out healthy business, but then also with you both working in the business can really clearly dictate, okay, well, we are going to take a vacation this week and we're going to set up like, you don't have to compete with, well, what does your job have? What are your priorities? Like you can really kind of make that life for your family exactly how you want it.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I mean, I think, he worked 15 years in a job that was, he was there from 7 a.m. until 6 o'clock at night, right? So when the kids were really little, I did have a lot more time with the kids, and I was more the primary caregiver of the kids, and I would pick them up and drop them off and go do things with them during the day. And so when we were able to kind of switch things around where he was working with me in the business, now my calendar is a little bit crazier than his. So a lot of times he's doing more with the kids than I am. I mean, it's pretty even, but he coaches their softball and baseball teams, and he does afternoon pickup, and I do drop off. And so we are really able to kind of sync up our work, but then also family time. And I think it's super cool that the kids get even more time with him than they did when they were littler and he was going to an office and spending the day there working for the whole day.
That's beautiful. And I think that ebb and flow, I think is great. And I think that's also something that speaks to how we can set up our lives, our businesses, no matter what we do to like have the lifestyle that we want. So if somebody, before we kind of wrap up with the last 5 questions that I always ask everybody, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, okay, I'm in this position, I'm in this job, I want to push into something different, but I'm scared. Like, what kind of mindset advice would you give somebody to kind of just take a leap of faith and jump into that dream that they've been thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, so I love this question, and I feel like I have such a personal connection with it because I really did spend a lot of time building my existing business while I was still working full time.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as I want to be like, just jump in and go
Right.
for it, part of me is like, we really did baby step into it, and that worked well for us. And I think validating your idea and getting some customers and having some revenue coming in on the side where you can see the potential is really important. And that, I mean, just to not sugarcoat it, that's going to be working evenings. That's probably going to be working weekends. That's probably going to be maybe sneaking in a little bit more work on your lunch break. All the things. Oh, hi.
Yeah. I know the dog decided she wanted to be on the podcast.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's part of it is, knowing that you're going to have to hustle for a little while and you're going to have to really put in the work on the front end to make sure that it works. And it is, in fact, what you think it is that you want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's important. And then, I mean, we did a lot of number crunching too, right? So it was, okay, can I move from a full-time role to a part-time role? Okay, now what if I step away completely? And then, can Jeremy step away from his job completely? And I will say that during each of those transitions, things did feel a little bit tight for a little bit, right? Until things really got back up and running. And so it wasn't as maybe glamorous as it sounds, but we did really baby step into it. But I think that that's important to just take that messy action and go for it. And, promise yourself that you're going to put in an extra 8 hours on a Saturday just to see if you can turn something into a full-time income. Right. And it's same with us. Like it took a while to get there, right? Like this process was over the last, 5 years or so, maybe even a little bit longer than that, as we, tested things and tried things and made transitions from one company to the next and rebranded and monetized what we were doing. So definitely go for it. And I would also say, think about it as, maybe a longer term approach too.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that though, because I think a lot of times we hear stories like yours on a podcast like this and we're like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. I'm going to do that. Like it sounds so simple because we don't always talk about the yucky middle stuff that like you have to sludge through to like get to where you're going. So I so appreciate you kind of giving that lens to it. And also like remembering that we see people that are so successful that are ahead of us. It's easy to like say, oh my gosh, they're an overnight success or they did all this stuff. Like we don't see all of the pre-work beforehand. So I think that's great advice to take those baby steps, but to take steps, like not just sit on.
To be committed to it.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Not always all sunshine and rainbows, but as long as you're committed and moving yourself forward every step of the way, like you're going to get there. It's just a matter of when you personally feel comfortable to take that risk and to let go of maybe some more reliable income that you've had in the past to really build something bigger where you can create a bigger impact, which is so exciting.
I love that. Okay, well, let's wrap up with the last 5 questions that we always ask our guests. So where's your go-to place for personal development or learning? Like, where do you like to binge, listen, or watch things? Or read, I guess. I don't read.
So good. I love this. I feel like all the places, right? Like I feel like I subscribe to so many emails and newsletters, all the opt-ins suck me in. But then I do feel like there's a few that I'm like, okay, that's what I need right now. I feel like I'm at a point in my business that I don't necessarily need the general training. I need like a deep dive. Like an example of that was last year, we were really working to move our program evergreen. And rather than just purchasing a program, I invested in some coaching to spend time with hands on my business to really make that happen in a way that would move things forward faster and would be really personalized to us. Well, both of us are in Amber McHugh's mastermind, and
Yes.
she's fabulous. So I also go to that group a lot, and having kind of a peer group that are also building their business. And I think more often than not, personal stuff comes up too in those
Yep.
conversations around, gosh, like, how do you have the mental energy to keep going on days that are hard? And what does this look like for you? And like, what kind of results are you actually getting? So I really appreciate those that are in my inner circle that are kind of more truth tellers. And I know, Sammy, you and I have had conversations like that too. Like, how is business for you today?
Yeah.
Are you seeing this? I'm seeing this. Like, let's compare notes here. So that's been huge for me. But I like hanging out over on Instagram. I'm a little bit of a lurker and a scroller, and like to see what other people are sharing. And I'd say all the places. That wasn't a concrete answer, but
no. But I think what you're saying is it's more like intentionality. Like, I go seek out the information that I need for where I'm at, as opposed to just consuming stuff to consume it and then overwhelm myself.
1,000,000%. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So that summed it up very nicely.
I'm just trying to, work on my communication skills and repeat back to you what I heard for validation.
So good. You're so good.
Okay. So would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I think most people listening to the podcast can probably tell I'm an extrovert. Hands down.
I love it. Yep. Bonus question then, since Jeremy's your business partner, is he more of an introvert then, or an extrovert?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, he does not like talking. And socializing drains him.
Yeah. That's good. You guys are a good pair.
He focuses on the back end of the business.
Yeah. Exactly. I love it. What's one thing that's on your list for this year as kind of a big goal, either personal or professional?
Okay, so I thought about this one in advance, and it's a mix of personal and professional. But one thing that I'm trying to commit to every day is 30 minutes of movement. So some kind of exercise, yoga, Pilates, walk around the neighborhood, close my rings on my watch.
On your Apple Watch, yep.
Yes. 30 minutes of movement, 20 minutes of reading, and 10 minutes of journaling. So that's a full hour that's dedicated to me. And I think sometimes it's hard for us to find an hour and carve that out for ourselves. And so that's something that I'm trying to be more intentional about. I don't nail it every day, but even if I get like half of it, if I get the reading and journaling in, but not the movement, or vice versa, I'm kind of like, all right, I took time for myself today, and I feel like I show up 1,000,000 times better when I do that.
Now, are you doing your 20 minutes of reading and journaling? Is that like just depending on the day? It might be a person, like you might just be reading a fun book, or it might be a business book. Like, do you kind of go back and forth, or do you try to kind of just have that be downtime?
Oh, I'm so bad. I just read business books. I wish that my daughter read the whole Harry Potter series over the summer, and I was supposed to be like keeping up with her and reading, and I only got through the first book, and then I was reading something else, and she was like, "Why are you reading that? We're supposed to be doing Harry Potter." And I was like, "Oh, because Jenna Kutcher's new book just came out, and I'm over here in the corner reading it." I tend to gravitate to business books, things that I can learn or that are going to kind of fuel my brain.
I'm guilty of that as well. Okay, what is a piece of advice that you've gotten from someone that has stuck with you?
Okay, this is the hardest question of the podcast, I'm pretty sure. And I went a lot of different directions with this, but I have to go back to quote my mama, because anytime I was like little or teenager, or even now as an adult, having a little bit of a moment or a little bit of a meltdown over something, she always says, "You should probably just go take a nap." and I'd be like, "But I'm tired." And she's like, "You should probably just take a nap. You should take a nap." But what I love about that is it's the power of the pause. Like, walk away from this situation. You're clearly worked up over this. Why don't you just go lay down and rest? And then you're going to wake up and you're going to feel better. So to quote my mom, everyone should just go take a nap.
We have that in our house, but it's, are you hungry? I think you need to eat something.
Yes, I'm a little hungry.
That's usually ours. And I'm not hungry. I don't need food. And then as soon as food gets in the children, they're like, "Yeah, sorry."
Yeah.
I was hungry, but we should try the
kind of starving.
I like that.
Yeah.
What is a non-negotiable in your life?
Non-negotiable. I mean, I would say family. You probably heard that a lot and kind of, a trend throughout this whole conversation, but prioritizing family. I try to work my calendar around my kids' activities. I try to work when they're at school. I'm probably overly involved being team mom for sporting teams and PTA and all the things, but I'm usually the first one to volunteer. Like, okay, yeah, I want to go on that field trip. Like, I want to be there for all those things as my kids get to have cool experiences. So family's up there on the list.
Practices what she preaches because her business is where it is because she also is sending out emails and DMs and messages at like 11 midnight, 1 in the morning. So she gets her work in, but when, around stuff.
And honestly, that's just like a season of life that we're in. And I fought it for so hard being like, I shouldn't be working in the evenings. Like successful people don't work in the evenings. They take evenings off. And I mean, I take more afternoons off to do kids stuff than evenings. And eventually that will probably change. But for right now, the afternoons, if they're at practice or if they have a game or an after school activity, that's usually where the priority is, even if it requires a couple of extra hours of work in the evening. So.
Well, this has been such a fun conversation. As always, I always love talking with you, Becky. But if people want to learn more about you, more about the Academy, all of the things, how do they find you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much at Modern Direct Seller everywhere. You can start over on our website, moderndirectseller.com. We also have our Modern Direct Seller Academy that's open. You can come hang out with Sammy and I over there. Yay! And that's at moderndirectselleracademy.com. And Sammy, you might even have
I can share my affiliate link. Yeah.
Please do. And then you get $5 off the first month. So I'm just plugging Sammy's affiliate link here.
I love it. Well, and Lisa was in episode 2. You can come hang out with her. She's in the Academy. And we have a few other Academy members because, again, like we've been talking about this whole thing, like you never know the people that you're going to meet. And I have met incredible people from all over, all US and Canada mostly, inside of the Academy that we just like network and chill and hang out with all the time that I would have never known if it wasn't for joining Amber McHugh's program when I first started my business. Like you never know like how things are going to happen. So we'll definitely link all of those things up in the show notes for you. Becky, this has been so fun.
So fun. Thank you for inviting me. I loved our conversation. We probably could have talked another 30 minutes. So, maybe we need a part 2. There we go. My podcast next.
Yes. Yep. For sure. Okay. Well, we'll talk soon.
Thanks.
I could talk all day to Becky. We have so much fun chatting about all things direct sales and just business in general. I am so blessed to have her in my world when it comes to building and growing my business, all of my businesses. She's such a great support person. So I hope you are inspired by her as well. Thank you so much for listening. And you can grab all of the information, all of the show notes, all of the resources, everything we discussed in this episode at easystylewithsammy/11. I'm sorry, easystylewithsammy.com/11. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen so you don't miss a single episode. Episodes come out on Thursdays. And while you're there, leave us a review. It just helps the algorithm show us to more and more people. Also, you can check us out on YouTube at Easy Style with Sammy as well. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one.